Welcome back to Collective Conversations, the podcast where we have real conversations that help young people, families, educators, and communities discover opportunities, unlock potential, and build brighter futures. Today, we're going to be speaking about career paths that nobody talks about. Most people are asked about their future career paths. Some of the answers are the same. We often hear lawyer, doctor, teachers, athletes, or engineers. While those careers are certainly valuable, there are thousands of rewarding pathways that often get overlooked. So today we're going to explore four career pathways that definitely deserve more attention. Skilled trades, entrepreneurship, public service careers, and technology certifications. These careers offer opportunities, stability, purpose, and in many cases, strong earning potential without requiring a traditional four-year degree. So whether you're a student trying to figure out your next step, a parent supporting a young person, or an educator helping to shape future lives, this conversation is for you. So I think to start, I'd like to talk about why the expansion of career exploration is important. Why do we need to even be having this conversation? I think especially I think it's getting better with the trades and the schools being given the proper attention more so now than they were. But I know in the 90s, it was a four-year college degree or bust, and that's just simply not the case.
And I think we've had, it's been a great, month that we've had, and had some graduates on, some pursuing college, some graduating from college, right? There's something else though. There's also these skilled trades that, you can also pick up and then make a career out of. And I think, and I like I said, before I went to like a great ceremony for ACT, Academy of Careers, and I think it was a great thing. Tons of people there. I mean, I think it was over 300 graduates from ACT, so it's strong, and I believe that too. And like I said before, but I think it's also worth mentioning. Why I say that is because, not everybody's going to go to college, right? And you always have that. You always have the one of those things they talk about. Well, why do I need to be $60,000 in debt, right? And then no job. Or, no debt and then have a job. So, which one is it? And have definitely a $60,000 career. So you can look at it a lot differently. But, America, we need what? We need electricians, we need welders, plumbers, HVAC tech, heavy equipment, police officers, right? Is another thing we're speaking about. And also, definitely tech. A lot of IT. Everything's ran, but a lot by computers now. So definitely having somebody in there that can really do these things. And it's like I said before, sometimes it is. And a lot of times a trade person makes more than a college graduate. And that's what you see. Listen, I'm not deterring anyone from going to college. I went to college, so I get it. But I also know the power in, these skilled trades and, in public service careers. I know the power in those as well. So that's what we kind of here to talk about. And, like I said before, I'm glad you're here, Chad, come sit down and talk a little bit about this. And the first thing, thing I want to talk about are skilled trades. Let's get into it. This is, the first thing, our topic should be skilled trades. And it's really a big workforce. When we think about skilled trades. And like I said, if we're going back to it, those are more the electrician, the welders, the plumbers, the HVAC, right? Those are more of those things. And like I said, for getting those skills down is a big thing. Because it takes skill, like I said, in order to do these things, and you want to know what you're doing. And nobody really, when the lights go out, who we calling? When the pipes burst, who we calling, right? When the roads need repaired, who we calling? And that's the thing, when the internet goes down, who are we calling? The internet went down here yesterday, and it was like, scary because we have so many things connected to it as far as, with paperwork and stuff like that, and it goes down.
Yeah.
Who we calling? I mean, I'm on the phone, trying to get in now. It's a lot of it's, when we talk about, fixing things, it's a lot of, chat things we're doing. So that's a lot different than it was before. So, and that's the thing. But we need to celebrate these careers. We need to celebrate these careers because it means something.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it means something a lot. And that's why. And let me ask you a question. Why do you think, Chad, the society kind of views these trades as less than?
Yeah,
in your own opinion. This, of course, is your own opinion.
I think, I believe that overall society tends to look at white collar, blue collar. And while that's an acceptable classification in jobs, somewhere along the way, we associate a white collar with higher class and blue collar with lower class. Is that right? Absolutely not. But, I know a lot of people, similar age as me and younger, that opted into going to college and going to a 4-year degree to take to get a career that wouldn't have paid them as much if they had gone the blue collar route and learned a skilled trade, but they saw that as a status symbol. I work in an HR department at company A as opposed to I'm a plumber. That's the stereotypes, if you will, that we place on these jobs. Well, in reality, that person that's working, that has that degree, but probably also that debt that comes with the college education oftentimes. What we don't see and what they don't think about at that time is that plumber is probably making 4 times the amount of money at, entry level.
Something you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of the big things is, the physical demands, right? Those things, job security, which you have with skill trade, Also, union opportunities, benefit packages that we have, right? Like insurance and different things like that, life insurance even as well, and also career advancement. So this is some of the things that you start to see. A lot of, people who are, have a skilled trade, right, and work it, they own homes, businesses, because, a lot of sometimes when we'll talk about entrepreneurship here in a little bit, and also rental property. So even sometimes before this episode is definitely not versus. It's definitely to celebrate those career paths other than, the ones that people don't talk about, because we don't usually think of it like that, but they mean something.
And as you said, college is not for everyone, but also the trades and, going the blue collar route is not for everyone, and that's okay. We need everyone to come together. For instance, I was really pushed toward going the college route,
right,
a few years ago, but I went the opposite, and I worked a lot of years in blue collar jobs, and I'm thankful for the education that taught me. But, as I matured, I realized, college had a lot to offer me. There were a lot of things that I was interested in, and that,
of course,
and you can pivot. I guess that's my message,
right. Right.
And college, like you said, college, we're definitely not discouraging anyone from going to college. I'm going right now.
No, right.
Yeah.
So one of the things, when we speak about, but being in Southern West Virginia where we live, right, one of those things is, some of the mining industries. I think a lot of that has, kind of dissipated. Not saying they're not out there, right? But that wasn't the only thing. That was the only thing at one time. Welding now, a lot of electrical things, HVAC, CDLs, you see is a lot as well, and also heavy equipment. And we're always doing construction. Sometimes it's construction or some kind of repair on the roads around here, even outside here as well. So it's one of those things. So it's always opportunity there, and that's one of the things that's a good thing as well. So I look, I think, thank goodness for the people who are, getting into these skilled trades and be able to help, because they're pros in itself. I mean, let's get it right. They're pros in itself. I know we always talk about, and like I said before, this is definitely not one of those things. And we should be able to celebrate, career paths that anyone might take. I mean, I always say, one of those things is, it's about career. I mean, really, supplanting yourself in something that you can do and earn a good living off of for years to come. And that's exactly what we need to do. And that's, like I said, the skills are a way to do that as well. And that's, one of the things we talk about. There are other ones now in our area too, like I was saying, especially with the IT coming into play now as well. Now, the only thing about Southern West Virginia, some of them are limited as well. But getting a trade and then moving out, I know that's, and I hate that, because I know we have a lot of people who work and then, go to school and then they end up working in some other state because the pay's better and more opportunity. And I get that. Hopefully we can get some more down here. And I think it's getting better. I believe some of the things that we're doing is getting better. So but we have to like I said, put the work in order for that to happen. We have to put the work in order for, definitely things to be that way. But, lights won't come on without electricians. We know that. And that's the thing. And the waters won't flow without plumbers. So while, they're not glamorized, I don't know why not. I mean, because if you think about it in your own mind, if some of these things do break down, how much are we paying?
Exactly.
I mean, so,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I was just thinking as you were talking, they're not glamorized, but I guarantee you that if it's, a 95-degree day this summer and the AC goes out, then there ain't gonna be no more important person to me than the HVAC guy.
100%.
I mean, and that's why there is such value to those positions.
100%.
Because when they're needed, people are, I know I'm willing to pay whatever I can, for those services.
100%. So to move on, to the next part we're going to talk about next, entrepreneurship, betting on yourself. This is another avenue that we were speaking about as well. But guess what? Most successful entrepreneurs, they don't start out rich, right? They don't. Many businesses begin as side hustles sometimes, not even the fact of that, And being a business owner myself, I know that it's hard work. It's not easy. It's not hard work. And it says, a lot of times we talk about it as being like glamorous. There's really a lot of sacrifice that you have to do. It's a lot of ins and outs. This is the reality is today is one of those times, and you have to make some decisions that that may not sound like the best for everyone, but sometimes they don't understand, and that's anybody per se, don't understand that some of the moves that I or a business owner makes are for the whole business itself, which eventually affects them too in a good way if it can be done right. But I get it. Some people are afraid to start. That's one of the things, you start to, really that keeps them from doing their dream. Never in my day did I believe that I would own a business at all, because it wasn't something on my radar. Right. If you really want to know the truth, not really high on supervising people. I've had supervisory jobs, but not really, because, like I said, when you say betting on yourself, a lot of times if you want to grow, you can't only bet on yourself, you got to bet on people too. And that's the thing, to expand and to get things going as well.
And I think that's something crucial when you talk about entrepreneurship is being able to select the right people around you, because like you said, you're not doing it by yourself,
right?
No matter what it is. And I think you brought up a good point too. Like, I was interested in going that route at a young age, and but the drawback of youth, one of the few drawbacks of youth, is you don't have experience in anything.
Right.
And you know, at a young age, you want to jump straight into, I want to be a business owner. And, you know, as you mature and grow, you see, okay, I want to work for a guy that's a business owner in a similar business that I would like to own someday. And now you're learning, you know, not only are you have a job and you're employed, but you're also learning, and that's its own education, you know, that's beyond college. That's real world on the job training. And, you know, I think whether it's entrepreneurship or whatever the trade or college based field, I think that's key is, you know, look at someone that's doing what you want to do, and don't just admire them from afar, you know, pick their brain, approach them, and get that education from someone that's actually done it in real life.
Right. And I mean, and like I said, I wouldn't say that, I mean, entrepreneurship is for everyone. I wouldn't say that, because it's sometimes a lot, and this is not a complaint, but sometimes it's a lot of late nights. It's a lot of failures as well, right? A lot, like I said, again, sacrifice and sometimes uncertainty. You go through it, and you have to learn, you have to learn to expand more and never stay stagnant. I say that's one of the things I would tell any business owner is not to stay stagnant. You know, what's going good now may not go good in the future. Not saying that part, but make sure you're adding. Now, it was one of those things I heard someone say about a restaurant business. Let's say you sell, you sell hamburgers. Be good at that, right? But you might not want to have 60 things on the menu. Just saying, because then are you really still specialized? Keep the main thing, but still, expanding until you can, really hit and really, be definitely responsible in the things that you're doing as far as that would go. And that's the thing.
And I think that's a good point as far as young people work toward their goals. A lot of times I know in my life I learned things that I didn't necessarily want to learn because I didn't see the value in them at the time, and it might be years later, but
right.
Eventually that's a toolbox that you can pull from. And so I would say, that's whether it's college, whether it's trade school, whether it's on the job training after, I would say gain as many tools as you can, because I know in my life, and chances are you're going to have to pivot.
I'm glad you said it, because lack of planning, lack of the tools, lack of planning is a problem. Sometimes when we talk about why businesses fail as an entrepreneur, right? Poor financial management is another one, and no market strategy as well. But the one, I mean, all those are important too. But the fear of asking for help, you should not. If you need help, you need to ask. And I'm good about that, because I don't know everything, and I'm okay with that. I know, like I said, for the main thing, but even if even if it changes, I need to know more about it. I need to, get into it a little bit more than that. And that's, a lot of times where, people can dream about the certain things, but there's people that, make a good living with lawn care.
Absolutely.
But and started out as a side hustle, right? Mm-hmm. Cleaning services, same way. Photography, things that we're doing as a side hustle now has became their main source of business and source of income. Yeah. Content creation, same way. Yeah. We do a little bit of it, don't get me wrong. And it's not so much a side hustle, it's a reason why we do it. A lot of times we do this for the community. Really, people say, oh, what do you mean? Because we want to talk about the topics, right, that can better our community. That's what, and also have a springboard for some of the things that our nonprofit does. Right. So it's a win-win. Right. Food business is the same way. It could be started out as a side business, or food truck turned into a brick and mortar building where they start serving food out of it.
Yeah, and even my passion for creative writing, and as you're talking, I'm thinking, When I was in high school, I graduated, I'll date myself, I graduated in 1994. If, and I made decent grades and was definitely on college track. But if people ask me what I was interested in, I was interested in creative writing. Well, in rural West Virginia, you tell most adults that that's what you're interested in. Okay, how you gonna make money? Which is a fair point.
That's true.
But at the time I let it discourage me, and that's on me. But as the years went by, I always had that itch. I always had that passion. And so what you realize as I got a little older and mature, maybe I can't start out doing that as my only source of income, but the local paper needed a freelance reporter. They needed a regular columnist. And now I'm getting to scratch that writing itch, right. And I'm learning, and eventually I was able to. So you might not be able to start where you want to, but if you can get your foot in the door, and at least in an adjacent field, you'll pick up those tools, whatever it is, and have a much better chance later, and that could become your full-time career.
Right. And, being sometimes if you're in an underserved community, a lot of times people it's access to capital, the reason why they wouldn't want to be an entrepreneur, right? Or lack of mentorship. And I think that's a big thing. You got to find your mentor that's willing to, help you along the way. And if I go back even with, the business that I do now, with work skills and employment and education, I had a liaison, which is a great mentor liaison to me. I needed, but that was on the side of the agency that I work in conjunction with, not so much what I actually do. And I wish I had one, so I could. And if anybody ever, I would try to help them, because I know that's the part that's kind of get a little tricky, and get a little difficult at times. So that's the thing, but. I think the more we can be at this, as far as, and it's a lot of trial and error, but, turning the side hustle into a business, there is ways, there's classes you can take as well. We actually have one as well, entrepreneurship. We have one too that you can sit down and do as well. And that's why I like it, because I think this is, the key to, having successful business and, young, definitely young people, getting them exposed to stuff at an early age. So they know the options are out there. When you were talking about tools, filling that toolbox up in one day, guess what? They open it, and there's a shiny tool they can use. Yeah. And I think it's a big thing as well. Here's the thing. This is kind of pivoting to another career, public service careers. Who answers the call? That's the whole thing. When someone's overdosing, unfortunately, who's answering that call? If somebody's having a mental health crisis, who's answering that call, right? Stranded. House catches on fire. Someone scared, someone being assaulted. Who responds? It's public service. And I know this is a hot button topic, but really, think about it. Who are people we're talking about? Number one, policemen. Firefighters, EMT, teachers, social workers, and community advocates. Here we are. And these are public service things, and these are and it matters. And it does matter. We were talking to a group of social workers a couple of weeks ago, and I commended them for everything. Because I know, on that side of it, I know the difficulties of it, because I've worked, through ASO, I've worked, a little, in that field, so I know that it's tough, and it's sometimes unrecognized. Nobody wants to see you taking people's kids and things like that, and a lot of times it's not even that. Who's the voice for them? The voice for the voiceless. Who has those voices? Right. And that's the thing. People don't want to look. They don't want to look at all. They just want to take. No, they don't. They want what's best for the kid. And with that being said, that's not always what's best for what you think the kid needs. right? And that's so they're being a professional in that way. I'm not saying you don't, and I think that's the thing when we talk about policemen, firemen, EMT, teachers, social workers, community advocates. I think a lot of times we focus a lot on the negative more than what the positive could be, and that's the thing. And this is not I commend those who choose definitely this the public service career. I do. Because there are some challenges to this. A lot of times it's burnout. Let's get it right. I mean, it's one of those things you can be burnt out on very easily. Mental health as well. Your mental health has to be on point. I mean, it does, or getting the help you need. And the long shifts that you have, boy, it can tear you down. It can tear you down. And public criticism, as we already said, is one thing. And there's always, I think in a lot of these, in any job, even if it was with college as well, there's sacrifice. You have to. We were talking about that earlier. On another sense, on the relationship side with Christ, sacrifice. You're always gonna be sacrificing, right? And it is one of those things. But what are you willing to? That's the whole thing. Are you willing to, right? And that's what people have to understand. People don't. They don't understand the sacrifice that public service make. I do believe that. They don't understand
They
that.
don't. And, I think that's such an important point. As I listened to the lists of some of the public service fields you gave, and in comparison, there are some of the lower paid jobs oftentimes.
Right.
So that for me, that makes me respect people in this field and go in this field that much more, because they're not doing it for financial gain. If chances are, these are bright, intelligent people. They know, that they could do something else, but they're doing it from the heart. They're doing it for fulfillment. They're doing it to service the community, to offer help. And, that's special on its own. And like you said, they're already underpaid. They definitely shouldn't be underappreciated.
And like I said, things are magnified more when there's a negative part to something. It's always magnified even more. And that's what we have to understand, that, while it looks this way, not all is this way. Right. And that's the thing, it's not, are there some bad police officers? Yeah. Absolutely. There's some bad CPAs, some bad lawyers, some bad doctors, right? There's some bad, everybody, don't get me wrong. It's just one of the things that when it is as public service, because we talk about public, there's a lot of opinion with that. And that's the only thing. And that's, what we kind of find out, these things. But I commend them for, definitely taking this route, because it's not, it's not the route that a lot of people would want to take. Let's get it right.
I think it's, and speaking of law enforcement, in general, I think like the more the discussion becomes, if you're going into this role, you're going in it to protect people. You're going in it to stand up for the person that maybe can't stand up for themselves. You're going in it to serve. I think if we can start that as the baseline idea of what that field's all about, and now we have the right people going into that field.
You were involved with it a couple of weeks ago. Think about it. When we talk about public service, I mean, you're not alone. Initiative that they have, definitely for mental health and for recovery as well, but to do it out in the public. You were involved with it. Think about those, ran by the Raleigh County Sheriff Department, and commend them, because, I mean, it used to be that way before, maybe not with you're not alone like an event, but you used to see a lot of police officers, a lot of everybody, just all in the community. Yeah. Not when it was distress. Right. When it was just there and they got to know, and it's I think by doing that, it's gotten everybody together. And I think, hopefully, I like it. I don't know if you enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was during your weekend. It was, weekend of the graduation. So it was a little different. Yeah. When it came to that.
It was a great event. And, I think if nothing else, you brought together a lot of people from a wide array of backgrounds.
Right.
And, we were able just to communicate and people, I think, left with a better understanding that, people are just people. This man, he's a policeman, but he's a person. He has his own struggles and highs and lows as everybody else. And I think the more we can have events like that bring people together and just have conversation, that will relieve a lot of the tension and the
Right.
unwarranted ideas that we have.
And show that everybody's human.
Right.
I mean, and that's the thing. I think, because I want to, break that barrier, right? Of, oh, you don't know we're here. And it's not, we're here to give you a free handout. We're here to sit, talk, converse, fellowship.
Yep.
It's a lot of it. Communicate.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it as well. A lot of the, public service, that's what they do all the time. We just don't see it. Like I said, while you see a police officer doing something wrong to somebody, it's 100, they just don't show it.
Right.
It's 100 of them doing great things for people, helping people out. Not only them, social workers, like I said, there's a lot of different ones. Firemen, right? EMT, a lot of times, the EMT, think about it. They got a real job. I led with, who's responding to that overdose? Yeah. Who's doing that? Who you gonna call, right? And unfortunately, a lot of times that's happened over and over and over again. So it's something now. Teachers, I think we left them out before we move on. Teachers, I commend them. I really do. And I know we get, the people sometimes get the bit. Well, people are gonna do that anyway, because people rather criticize than to say something good anyway. Not all, and I hope that's not the case. It's definitely not me. It's one of those things, let's talk about it. Community advocates, people out there in community helping, right? I think it's a great thing. And teachers have a hard job now, because to me, because like I said before, we're not always disciplined at home. Respect them, and then here it is. And then now I can't, because now you're mad but we have to have order. Right. Even inside, our office now, you have to have order. Yeah. Or just gonna go all, haywire. Yeah. And
I think that you brought out a good point. We don't, a lot of times on the news, we don't hear about these positions until something bad has happened.
Right.
I think that's one thing I really like about these conversations that we do, that we have, because I feel like we have been able to and continue to point out the positives that some of these people bring to the community.
Love having guests.
And that can be talked about enough.
Love having guests. When the guests run out,
right.
Then, but let's do what we do. Let's talk about some, hard, impactful issues, like I said, like career paths. Right. And nobody talks about. Let's talk about it. Yeah. Because now, the graduation's gone and everything. Yeah, people going to college, but guess what? Sometimes college don't work. Then what? Right. Go back to the skills. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah, and going back to that, I think a major problem, I guess you could call it a problem, a major hurdle for me at that age is kids that don't necessarily know, maybe you're approaching the end of your high school days, or, maybe you're in college already, but you don't really know what path you want to take as far as career. And, looking back now through the lens of a 50-year-old man, I would definitely tell, that junior, senior in high school, wherever they are, that, you do have time. And even if college is your path, you still have time. I just recently completed my first semester of college. I wouldn't have had to declare a major that first semester. Everything you take is general. And I noticed, as I'm taking these classes, that certain subjects really pull out passion from me. So, the field presented itself for me.
Henceforth, getting to the last one. Technology, right? Right. Certificates.
technology certificates.
Yes. So now we're getting into those. Think about it. It's the day and age, and that's when you said about career paths and switching, and this is what's happening because these jobs are growing.
Yeah.
Technology jobs are growing. I mean, let's get it right.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't even require a 4-year degree as well.
Absolutely. And I think the big panic button people are pushing right now in tech sector as far as jobs are, AI replacing programmers. And, eventually that may very well be the case. But if you read what the tech industry is saying, they are saying that very well may be the case. But looking at the big picture, AI is actually going to create a lot more tech jobs.
Right.
You're just going to have to be able to learn to use a different tool.
Right. And notice I said certification. What's that? Certificate. Sometimes people, I think, certificates are great. Some people just look at them, but this is what we need in order to continue to go, right? Especially when we talk about Google IT support, Security Plus, AWS, some of the things they talk about. I mean, this is some of the things, Microsoft, right? Yeah. Some of the things we talk about, is it, are we moving fast enough to prepare these students for IT? Maybe not, but that's why I said, or per se, the older generation as well. So, I mean, it's like, a lot of times I think they're creating jobs. I mean, like you said, with AI, is it going to take the place of jobs? Probably some, but not all.
Right.
Not all. And that's what I said, but being versed in it is a job itself.
Right. And having that toolbox so you're versatile.
Right.
So maybe you're not doing the exact same job, but maybe now you're pivoted, but you can pull from that toolbox.
You have to learn new skills.
Yeah.
You have to learn new skills. And this, this is one, with the technology, this is the skills you have to learn.
And I think people, especially young people, but really anybody, I think that instead of, there's always some fear with uncertainty things, but I think that if they start looking at AI as, okay, this is something that's really moving to the forefront, it's an opportunity. If I can learn at the same level, everybody's early into it, on the consumer end. If I can learn how to and gain the education how to use this as a tool, now I'm ahead of the curve as far as AI starts to be more integrated into the workplace.
Right.
It's actually presenting a really good opportunity for people.
And I believe that it's like, so one of those things is, and these, technical jobs that we have with technology can really help a lot when it comes to actually starting another career. Once you learn a lot of it is patience. A lot of jobs are patience too, but it's definitely, with technology, it's a lot about patience. It's a lot about patience. A lot of it is, right, and learning. And because it's processes, and that's, for a person like me, liking to skip, it's not good. You have to have process. I mean, I think a lot of times that's what it takes. And that means you have to slow down, and you have to go through each chain of the commands in order to get the things done you need to get done. And that's so, with technology, that's a lot of what it is. Yeah. And I think it's a good thing too, as well.
And, and I think that lends itself to perfect mentor relationship, because, oftentimes the young people that need a mentor are going to older people who can provide a lifetime of experience, but that older person a lot of times needs some help with the technology.
Because you'll be left behind. There was a lady asked me, do y'all teach? I mean, she just texted me last week. Do you teach about computer? Yes, we do. Come in. I mean, we have computers. We're sitting there looking at them.
Right.
They're not doing anything right now. I mean, of course, we're in here now.
Right.
I'd rather somebody be on them, learning, than just let them sit there and say, oh, look at all these nice computers we got. Okay. How nice are they? Are they helping people?
Right.
You know, and that's the thing. So you don't want to be left behind. You have to adapt. And that's a lot of things. But another thing about certificates, and when it comes to certificates of degree, if we put them against each other, certificates, are cost effective. Let's get it where it really is. And also less time. Doesn't mean you don't have to put the time in,
Right.
but it's less time. And like I said, some of the opportunities are there.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for people that can really do it, and that's the thing. And then we have to understand.
Yeah, and depending on the work field, I think, I know several people that are skilled welders and their income is really good. But, there are, I would say, put in some research, because there are certificates that's jobs that are hiring that if you have this certain certificate, I'm thinking about a welding certificate. If you have a certain one for that field, your resume just got moved to the top. And
Right.
and sometimes those certificates can make up for a lack of experience.
Right. So a lot of it, before we move on, a lot of, when it comes to technology, a lot of the certificates could be in IT support, cyber security, web development, which we know everybody, that's what the first thing is. What do you think? Right? That's what they do. They look at the web. Oh, you got a nice website.
Yeah.
It matters, right? Graphic design, digital marketing, and like that, and definitely analytics, which, is a powerhouse now as well.
Right.
So, just getting those things and definitely getting, definitely having them concrete is a big thing as well, to understand these things as well. So, I think, a lot of that, helps us when it comes to, all scheme of things, as far as, what are we to do when it comes to, careers. There's a lot of careers out there. And these are things you can do, sometimes even not in a brick and mortar. You can do it at your home, maybe brick and mortar, but you can do it at your home. And you have your office there and do some work as well. So that's a great thing too. So that's a little bit, what we were talking about. And I do believe that this, as we get ready to come to close, I do believe that this is needed. One of those things that we speak about as well, the future belongs to who? Everyone, right? But the underrated career, which some would call it underrated, I don't, but some would call it underrated career, these skilled trades, the public service, the IT, the entrepreneurship. Listen, it's a great skill to have. It's a great skill to have. And that's what, you never know. You can open your horizons up a lot to those things. At least to know a little bit about them as well. We're kind of, I have one of the best jobs in the world. We get to actually, teach young and old, job skills.
Yeah.
But what they don't understand, they teaching me every day too.
Absolutely.
It's like, that does. I had a little lady the other day when she was in class and just told me, she wanted to do both. Like she wanted to do a little dabble in nursing to see how it's like, and also do some other things as well. So that's to me out of sight, because really still focus on the future, but then still want to kind of give back to the community, because it's something like working in, which we'll speak about here in a minute. Something I'm speaking into about working with kids at the camp we have. So it's even those things. Degree, certificate, trade, entrepreneurship, they all matter. You have to look what's best for you. You really do. And I know, one of the things is when you turn 18 or get out of school, a lot of those things that your parents was telling you to do, or somebody was, now you have to really realize, man, I didn't like school. Or okay, why don't you try a trade? But guess what I do? I don't do it until 3 years in, pile of debt, trying to stay in school, and didn't really even like school. But I'm doing it because Chad told me, Dad, hey, I'm trying to do it for them. They have to pick what's right for them.
Yeah,
really
and just because what you want to do might seem far-fetched to everyone, and maybe honestly it may be statistically really improbable. We think about athletics. I would have loved to be a professional athlete, but you know, it wasn't going to happen. But so say someone has their entire identity and all their passion is wrapped up into that, and you at some point in your life you realize that either you have a shot or you don't. But I think too many times if we don't, we say, okay, I just have to completely that part of my life gone. Whereas really, that's when you dig in and okay, what other jobs can keep me involved in what I'm passionate about, and also be my career.
That's it.
There's a ton of jobs, whether it is in a marketing program for a team, coaching, athletic training. There's more, and I'm just using sports as an example.
Right, of course.
Any of the creative fields, there's adjacent fields where you can kind of carve out your niche, and again, your career, you're going to devote so much. If you're going to have a good career, you're going to devote so much of your time to it. I think it's so vital that we find our passion and pursue it, and it may not be the position that you thought it was going to be. It may be totally adjacent, but it might give you that fulfillment that you need. And sometimes I think that's, and it's important to pay our bills, it's important to make a living. But it's also important to have some fulfillment in what we spend our time, most people spend about half of their time, working, in some way working toward their career. So, what value is it if it's something that you have no passion for, or no, something that you don't even enjoy?
Right. I mean, I think that's one of the things, nice to as we wrap up, this is like the final takeaway would be just, a lot of these, career paths that we just spoke about, the skilled trades, the public service, the entrepreneurship, and also the technology. I mean, path is, certificates are definitely ones that are not, they're overlooked, but they're definitely matter. Look into them. I would say look into them even more than what we were just talking about. And before you decide your future, look into some of these.
Absolutely.
To see if this might be what might be your calling. I do believe, sometimes I do believe the goal isn't to find the most popular career, is to find the one that matches your purpose, your strengths, right? Your vision for the future, not someone else's. And that's what we have to realize, and hopefully they will. But I'm glad we sat down and talked about this. I really do. I mean, we can get more into it. Like I said before, I think there's avenues, there's things that we have as well, and Donakey has as well, and some classes and some great CRPs as well have in order to get to help others kind of progress into themselves as in the job world through this pathway if that's the one you'd rather take. And that's what we're here to do, to help with those things as well. This will wrap up Collective Konversations, but just real quick, Camp Elevate starts Monday, June 15th. We're super excited. We're full as far as registration. I think that's a blessing as well. So we're going to have 25 youth coming in, elementary kids coming in, and visiting different places. Going to some of these public service, with the police and the fire department, places like that as well. So I think that's a great thing too. So I'm super excited for have some workers, on tap as well to work with, and also some youth as well to learn. I think it's great to get them to see the atmosphere of this and then actually give back to the community as well and help kids grow as well. Also, June the 20th, the TSK Prevention of Literacy in Life, Pathways Literacy in Life will be having a cookout over at 100 Washington Street, at the Multicultural Center. It's outside though. It's a front yard cookout. It's from 12 to 2, and that's going to be June the 20th. June 20th to come out. Like I said, we're really trying to
again, never going to stop trying to attack literacy, illiteracy, and to help people, learn, and be able to read better, even though, like I said, I know it's a stigma about not really wanting everybody to know, and that you don't have to. We want to do it in a way where, it's discreet, is dignified, to where all you can, none of that. We don't want that, but we definitely want you to be able to read. We definitely want you to be able to, definitely be productive in society. A lot of it has to do with reading. I mean, I'm not going to get around the fact that you need to learn how to read. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. I mean, and the aids that they have can make that happen. And we're here to help as well. So this, like I said, I thank everyone for listening. And like I said, and join us next week on another edition of Collective Konversations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.